Welcome to this edition of Great Books, a lively discussion of a selection from the canon of exceptional literature. Here's your host, Jack Hatfield.
Welcome to the Great Book Show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jack Hatfield. Lisa's going to explain the selection we're going to discuss tonight.
As Jack mentioned, tonight we're discussing a play called The Misanthrope, and it's by a French writer named Molière. Molière was born in Paris in 1622, worked in the theater as an actor, a manager, and as a playwright. His theater company won the king's patronage, but his plays challenged the institutions of his time, and they earned him notoriety. In fact, one of his plays, Tartuffe, was actually banned from the stage for 5 years. The Misanthrope is set in mid-17th century Paris. Alceste, the misanthrope, or people-hater of the title, is in love with a 20-year-old named Célimène. Another man, Orant, also pursues her, but she refuses to choose one over the other. Adding to Alceste's frustration is the fact that she welcomes the attentions of many others as well, while making fun of them behind their backs. Alceste is so disenchanted with his situation that he wants to break with the whole human race and find some desert land unfouled by humankind to escape to. Célimène's two suitors confront her, and Alceste offers to forgive her treacheries if she will just go away with him to this desert land, but she of course refuses. As the play ends, Eliante and Philinte, two of Alceste's more moderate friends, are determined to try to change the mind of their unhappy friend. Is our protagonist actually a misanthrope, or a cynic, or something else? Is his despair over mankind and his times justified? And are his times at all similar to ours?
Thanks, Lisa. Alceste seems to be the pivotal character in this play. How is Molière presenting him? What does he want to take away from that character?
Well, I think he's definitely a misanthrope. And one of the questions I think you asked earlier was about, is he realistic? Is he cynical? And I'm not sure how realistic he is when he expects everybody to be direct and honest. That's, I think, very unrealistic. But a misanthrope, several times during the play, he talks about all men. All men are corrupt, not some men. And he uses that expression, all. I counted at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So I think he's definitely a misanthrope. And heroic, if you want to say that he's heroic in the sense that he stands up for his principles and pays a high premium for that, then you can call him heroic. But that's the only heroic part I saw.
Anybody else?
I kind of saw him as a, almost like a drama queen. Kind of like, I think he really does believe that you should be frank and honest, and I admire him for that because no one else in his world really is. But at the same time, how realistic is it to expect people to always say what they think, or how safe is it to expect people to say what they think? And on the other hand, he says he hates people, but then he says he's, like desperately in love with this young woman who doesn't care about him at all. So he seems like he's kind of immature, was my impression. Like maybe he's 21 or 22 or something, I don't know.
How old did you think that he was?
I would guess early 30s, but that's just a guess. I have no idea.
There's no indication in the play of age.
But just in terms of how he presents her, how he your experience of the character as you're reading it, I thought it was more in the 40s. I thought it was older.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
If he's a cynic, I think the classic definition of a cynic is someone who's distrustful of the motives of others. But my wife likes to say that a cynic is a clear seer. And if we think of our friend Alceste in those terms, the poetry really was bad. And the people he accuses of being duplicitous really are duplicitous. And so that's just a part of human nature. So maybe he's a cynic.
What's a part of human nature?
Being duplicitous or being coy or being politic.
Oh, but don't you think
There's all kinds of flavors of it.
Isn't there another part of human nature?
To tell
and
the truth?
Is man's nature to be good, okay, and to be honest and
To be
direct.
compassionate.
And
Well,
self-
there you are.
Which he is
and
not.
also, duplicitous.
To what?
To what?
Yeah, well, also
Duplicitous.
being indirect and dishonest.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
your hair looks terrible. No, you don't say that.
Right.
Okay, and that's what Phil was always trying to say.
Feeling,
You know,
yeah.
I know.
Phil, yeah.
Is there a distinction between being honest and being brutally frank?
I think there is, yeah.
Or hurtfully frank.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he hurt himself as well.
Oh, he
as
hurt
other
himself as
people.
well. Yeah.
But he was
I
willing to pay the premium for being direct. A lot of people want to do something and be direct, but they don't want to pay the premium.
I think for him it was more than just paying the premium. This was a price he wanted to pay. Remember, he said at one point, he said, I almost wish that I could lose it, essentially just to make a point.
Lose the trial.
Lose the trial,
The
lose
lawsuit,
his case.
right.
Without the thing is, he's a misanthrope. But what's curious is, and this is taking off from Lisa's point about him being a drama queen, he has to have an audience. I mean, he hates mankind, but without his audience, he's nothing.
But then why does he want to go to an island and live by himself?
Oh,
if he needs an
Well, if
audience.
he does do it, I mean, he
Yeah.
talks about
Yeah,
it.
you're right. He
Yeah, I don't
doesn't
think
do
He
it.
wants to be difficult. He wants to
Yeah.
make his point.
And he wants to be known to be difficult and to be making a point.
Okay, on page 154, he's talking about the, I don't know if we ever learn what the lawsuit is actually about, but turns out that it's been decided against him, and he says, it shows the time's injustice with such clarity that I shall pass it down to our posterity as a great proof and signal demonstration of the black wickedness of this generation. Okay.
But keep going.
And this is, it may cost 20,000 francs, but I shall pay their 20,000 and gain thereby the right to storm and rage at human evil and send the race of mankind to the devil.
That's it. That's what he wants.
Yeah,
That's
he's
what
a-
he wants.
and
And
you're
he's
right,
willing he was willing to undermine his own best interests.
Yeah.
According to the realistic and rational friend Feline. This should really be your interest. We can always reopen the case.
Yeah.
Nope.
I sent that to someone today who's a agitator. And,
Really?
And he had sent something, and anyway.
Wow.
There's a Clemente, or Celamine. She says several things. She says, thinking that wit must never stoop to praise, that finding faults a sign of intellect. And then on the next page,
Where is that? Where's that? Jay?
it's
127?
125.
125, okay.
She goes on, he lives in deadly terror of agreeing twould make him seem an ordinary being.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen that in people, and I'm wondering if that is also directed toward Alceste by the author.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that whole description actually was very close to him, and yeah. Later on, when they quote, when the two marquises quote the letter, they say they quote something that she had said about him,
About Alceste?
about Alceste.
Okay.
Yeah. It says something like, I kind of like him every once in a while for his bluntness and crudeness, but basically no.
Well, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, gotcha. That's right.
Kind of as a foil, there's Flint, who's his buddy, who brings out just the opposite. And I'm wondering what Molière was getting at. He says, yeah, mankind is base, but the world won't change. All men are despicable, you know. And Alceste, I hate the degraded lot, but then Alceste, yeah, you're right, but you know, you have to go, you know, that you just be polite and you don't hurt people. And
That's Philip saying that,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great,
Yeah, Phil's saying
Phil was
a
saying
great section
Page 107.
where
Why don't you read it?
I have, in my edition it's page 85, but I'm the only one who has it.
Let's have
But
more time
in
reads.
Act 5, Scene 1, Philin says, "No, all you say I'll readily concede. This is a low, conniving age indeed. Nothing but trickery prospers nowadays, and people ought to mend their shabby ways. Yes, a man's a beastly creature, but must we then abandon the society of men? Here in the world, each human frailty provides occasion for a philosophy.
Yeah.
And that is virtue's noblest exercise. If honesty shone forth from all men's eyes, if every heart were frank and kind and just, what could our virtues do but gather dust? That pretty much states the middle ground that he's trying to urge.
Can I add something to that? He's also saying it for Lent. Pardon mankind for its petty crimes, and said end of rantings and railings, and show some leniency toward human failings. And then here's one I really like. There's no greater folly, if you ask me, than trying to reform society.
Oh.
And
I take men as they are, or let them be, and teach my soul to bear their frailty. 108.
I think Phil is the realistic one because he's moderate.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
And
yeah.
there's another line that goes along with too stern a virtue makes one stiff and rude. Okay, I mean, and that's what he's trying to get across.
Is that Alceste?
Yeah,
Too
no,
stern
that's
of a-
Phil again.
That's Phil.
No, but is he talking about Alceste?
Yes.
Yeah,
He's-
Alceste.
yes, he is talking about Alceste.
Stiff and rude, yeah.
But he doesn't get the point. Alceste doesn't buy it.
It's not that he doesn't buy it. I think I don't think he's trying to reform society. I think what he wants to do, he needs society as a foil for his moral superiority.
Yeah,
And
you know.
and without society, without a degraded foil, then he can't proclaim and demonstrate his superiority, his moral superiority to everybody. I don't think he's trying to reform society at all. I think he needs society as a foil.
So he's just trying to.
So
make
that's why
himself
Philinte.
look-
So that's part of why Philine's logic doesn't penetrate, because Philinte is assuming that is his goal. For example, to make people better,
Yeah.
and that's fine, but let's back it off a little. That's not his goal. At one point,
Where do you see lines that support that?
I think it's more of an impression, but I can point to a
The
couple
whole
of things.
story.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
see that, understand it, but I
Yeah.
also understand the other two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really think that they're contradictory. I think that he thinks that that's what he's trying to do. This is my guess. Is that Alceste thinks that that's what he's trying to do, but that's not how he comes across. He comes across as
He's the only
as,
one
as
in
the
the
drama
world.
queen.
Yeah,
as
that
he comes
drama
across,
queen is good.
in that one spot where he says, to get to your question, he says something like, everything you say is rational and reasonable, but my reason tells me this. So he basically acknowledged that Philine's points were good, but that doesn't matter.
You know what I love?
Let me see if I can find that.
How about the part where it didn't apply to his girlfriend?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I was
Wasn't
gonna
that
say.
great?
Let's table that just for 1 second, because that's really rich theme.
Yeah.
I hate everybody
I
except.
hate everybody except you.
Yeah.
And I can't help but not hate
But
you.
love is not.
Alceste comes back at Flint
Yes.
and says, well, suppose some men you trust should treacherously conspire to rob you of your property. Would you feel a certain indignation? This is 108. So he's coming back and saying,
108.
yeah, you have this good feeling toward all mankind and all that stuff. But what if somebody robs you? Then I think Flint really comes in with a good, he kind of goes and says, not directly, but he says, you condemn the act, but not the actor.
But I think that was brilliant of Moliere. I think that little exchange, because otherwise it's just too formulaic. You've got this this misanthrope or whatever, however you want to characterize him, and then you got this guy on the other side who's the absolute voice of reason. Except there, when Alceste says, "Wait a minute, if they rob you, wouldn't you feel even a little indignation?" And Philinte says, "No," which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's Moliere throwing a little bit of a curveball into this
that's
whole
interesting.
thing.
Yeah.
And I
didn't
did
recognize that when I read it.
I did
yeah.
find that thing on page 155. Philinte says. He goes and talks about after the speech that you read in terms of philosophy being the best employment of the virtues. Alceste says, "You're a matchless reasoner, to be sure. Your words are fine and full of cogency, but don't waste time and eloquence on me. My reason bids me go." He doesn't really give a good reason. He just says, "This is what I want to do," and then he goes on and says what he said before.
So
I'm not
reason
gonna
has
flatter, I'm
nothing
not
to
gonna-
do with it.
Not much.
In his
No, not
mind.
much. And
Yeah.
that's what I think is the
And
key
that's
to
how
his
he
character.
defends himself
Is
for his
that all this
inconsistency.
stuff is just like rationalization. What's underneath, I think, is a sense of moral superiority, which Celemen gets,
Right.
but not a lot of the other characters get.
Well, When you were asking the definition of cynic, a friend of mine, how you define the word cynic, a friend of mine used to say that a cynic is just a frustrated romantic.
I've heard that.
And I sort of think that, I think that's kind of the way he is, because he's so extreme. He says he hates everybody, and everybody's just flattering. But on the other hand, look at how he talks about his lady love, Silamaine, who is like, I'm madly in love, and I can't help myself, and
But his attitude towards man's nature is definitely cynical.
yeah. Well, I would agree with you there.
Right.
There's no,
Well, so's Valenti.
but he's very immature, as I would describe him. I
Yeah,
guess he doesn't
Who's,
get that.
which,
Oh, you think Valenti is?
Yeah,
Let
Alcest,
me read you
yeah.
something Valenti says.
Yeah.
He says, after the thing about would you rob, if someone robs you, what do you think? Valenti says, well, I know. He wouldn't feel a certain indignation. Those
Yeah.
faults of which you so complain are part of human nature. I maintain that it's no more a matter for discuss that men are knavish, selfish, and unjust than that the vulture dines upon the dead and wolves are furious and apes ill-bred.
Boy, is he comparing people to vultures?
No, it's just that's part of their
That's
nature.
Phil?
Yeah,
That's
well, I
Phil.
think he's sort of doing the same, though. I think
That's
he's
what
sort
I
of
meant.
saying that there are people that act like vultures. They do terrible things, and that is pretty realistic. But I can't imagine he wouldn't be mad if somebody robbed him. You know what I mean? It's like is he just saying that to make his point?
Yes, I think
He's
so.
just saying la-di-da, that's
Yeah.
the way it is.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I still think it has to do with, you just accept man's nature, but then you don't like what their act. Anyway,
Yeah.
why don't we get to the love interests as Bob brings
Yeah,
up.
well, I just thought it was when Phil said to him, hey, how about your girlfriend?
What about her?
Yeah, what about her and all of her gossip and all that she does? And he said, well, love is not about reason, it's about the heart. and
Yeah.
he needs her approval so much, he wants her to like him. That's why he puts up with her.
Yes.
Well, at 110, Flinty says to Alceste, he says, and these hard, whether this rectitude you so admire and these hard virtues you're enamored of are qualities of the lady whom you love? Good question. It surprises me. Then Alceste goes down and he says, yet I'm weak for
I'm weak,
all her
right.
falsity. That woman knows the art of pleasing me.
Hey, that's right. That was it. Yeah.
Which I,
You never get the sense that she pleases him
No, but
anytime.
that's
thing.
exactly.
You know? I mean,
And it was
why
like
does she
pulling
please
teeth for
him?
her to say, I love you.
I don't think she
Yes.
ever even said that,
Huh?
did she? Did she
Yeah,
ever
at the
even
end.
declare?
well, she said she agreed to marry. I'm not sure she said love you.
Well,
Well, at the end, she agrees,
To marry.
to marry him and go with him,
he
and
says
you're
no.
the one because
Not to go with him, though.
no, not to go with him
Right.
to the island.
yeah.
Let's look at how Alceste looks at love, which is very interesting, and it plays upon how he looks at the rest of the world, I
This
think.
is why I thought he was so young. It was that he seemed to have such a young attitude towards love. And, well, anyway, go ahead.
Hello.
That's why I was thinking he was like 22
Oh, you
or
want to talk
something,
about
but-
that a little more?
Oh,
Young in age, love and age.
we seem to have such a kind of childish approach to. But anyway, sorry, Jack.
Anyone want to jump in? I've got several quotes here.
I agree with you, and I think that part of that has to do with his misanthropy. I mean, he has kept himself so above the common lot of mankind that he has very little experience in the give and take of man-woman
Oh.
relationships.
Yeah.
He's like a babe in the woods, and he's completely at her mercy. He's defenseless, essentially. And so when he comes, and some of the things he talks about, I am weak. That's actually true. I mean, I think that whatever age he is like somebody in their first love. Because I think this might well be his first love.
Oh,
I mean,
well, yeah.
I think he's kept himself so out of. I mean, he couldn't stoop to be in a relationship. I don't think.
Yeah, okay.
And now, but this overwhelmed him. This overwhelmed him, and he doesn't know what to do with it. He can't handle it.
Yeah.
He has
I
no
think
experience. in it.
He's just stupid. I mean, as far as
He's stupid.
Alceste, he said, answers on page 111, he says, true love, sir, is possessive, and I cannot bear to share with all the world. Then he goes on later, on 127, the more one loves, the more one should object to every blemish, every slight defect.
Good luck,
luck.
dude.
Yeah, good luck, dude.
That's just
fun.
stupid. if it
It's stupid, but it's also very young, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
well,
sort of
yeah.
like Romeo talking
Immature.
about his,
Yeah.
talking about whatever that other, not
Well,
Juliet, the other person.
I look
Yeah.
at it as,
Right.
he doesn't have a good understanding of anything outside himself. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's what
society's
Joe was
mores
saying,
and
too.
and women and love and anything else, connection with the world. He's totally confused about that.
I totally agree.
Inexperienced, according to you. He just
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
rubbed elbows with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know what to do with these feelings.
Well, he really pushed her. It's either me or them. I mean, how many times did that show up, him saying, tell me what your story, okay, I want to know, where do I stand?
Well, that's reasonable, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then saying to prove to me that you love me, you have to say goodbye to the whole world and go away to this desert island. And I love how she says, "I'm 20, dude." I mean,
Yeah,
no way.
yeah, maybe like you said to Alcina or whatever her name was. When I get to be your age and men aren't chasing me around, then that's the time for prudery, and that's the time for going away to desert islands. Not now, not now.
Those two women really went after each
Oh,
other.
Oh,
wasn't
wasn't
that
that
good?
oh,
Wasn't
but
that
the way what's her
Salaman?
name? Salaman got back to the other woman.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that
And
was,
totally quoted.
You talk
Yeah.
about satire.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a
did
knife.
just an excellent
With a
job.
knife,
With
I
a
mean,
knife.
surgically, she went
was so
after.
good.
What did she say? Well, you can have. I've got way more lovers than I need.
Yeah,
so you
take,
can have.
feel free
Yeah.
to take any of the ones that are
And
hanging
she
around me.
thanked her
yeah.
for her input.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for your.
Oh, but that was totally sarcastic because she was
Oh, of
completely
course.
mimicking what the other woman said,
absolutely.
word for word.
I'm just
She
telling
gave it
you
to her
this
word
'cause
for
I'm your
word,
friend,
and which was
hurts
exactly
me.
what Arsinoe said,
Yeah.
word for word.
This must be great on stage.
It must be, yeah.
The other woman said to her, she said, inside you're just lovely and perfect and everything. Maybe on the outside you ought to try to be a decent human being.
Oh,
Yeah.
what act is that in? It's definitely
I'm
worth.
not
Four
sure,
or
but it's funny.
Okay, I just thought that was like almost the height of the comedic part of the play. I just pictured that on stage with them, tapping each other with their fans, then it'll devolve into like slapping each other, tripping
I
each
mean,
other.
oh,
and
it was
knocking-
so. I mean, it was so
Oh, how about the
catty
guy
in the
that
best
asked?
sense of the word.
What's
Yeah,
his-
exactly.
Al,
Exactly. The
what-
claws
what's-
were out.
Alcest?
Alcest to critique his poetry, okay, his poem. He's the one that ends up suing him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he didn't sue him.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No,
The
he
guy who
didn't
wrote the
sue him.
No,
poetry.
no, he didn't sue him. He brought a cause. He went to the marshals, and then he basically asked the marshals to
Yeah.
arbitrate it. I don't know what that was
I thought it
about.
was a
Yeah.
lawsuit.
I didn't.
No,
Well, there was another
No, there was
lawsuit.
another
Well,
lawsuit.
anyway.
There was an,
Yeah.
We haven't got much time, guys.
Okay.
One of the things that Lisa told me that his plays were very controversial and taken very seriously. You could read this as a funny comedy, as we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you bring it into our present world, what is there a serious message that Molière is trying to get to his readers, watchers of plays?
To me, it's the old question of, how do you relate to other people, and do you flatter people to get them on your side? Are you honest with people brutally so that you don't care how much you hurt people? Is there a middle ground where you can be honest and authentic to your feelings, but not trample on people? And I think in a lot of the business world, that would be a real issue that you want to, or in your
every
marriage, in every world.
In every
right?
era.
Do I look fat? No,
Yeah.
of course you don't, dear. There's only one answer.
That's right. Thank you, very fit, yes.
There's exactly one
Unless
answer.
you're,
to
yeah.
the question.
unless you're in love with the couch, because you're going to be having a up close and
I
personal
think
for
this
weeks.
plot's been rehashed 50 times in films.
Yes.
Liar, Liar with Jim Carrey.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
tells
Yes.
the truth all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And a lot before that, I'm sure, too.
I thought that there was a message that he was sending, and the message was, if you want to be direct and honest, be prepared to pay a high price for it.
Yeah.
Okay, in society. You're not going to be able to get away with that without a lot of pain. And I think that was a big part of the message in the play. Yeah.
But the more I hear it, the more I think about what you said. I think Alceste is really setting himself up as he's above everyone else. He's superior, and he loves that audience. I mean, he wouldn't be giving this speech if he was alone.
But didn't you get the idea that he believed in the principles that he talked about?
Yeah.
I believed
Yeah,
them.
I think so. Well, especially when he's talking about the verse And he starts out trying to be tactful, I think, with
He
his
does,
friend, doesn't
at
he?
first, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I talked to a friend of mine who
Yeah.
wrote stuff as
So,
crappy as this.
he's trying to be
Yeah,
tactful.
exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And here's what I told him.
I think Molière is also critiquing society. And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's, that, you know.
Certainly
that-
the society he lived in court where you had to flatter people. And,
Yeah, even, you know, that's one thing that I think you can bring into our present age. It's not considered flattery as much as
I love the language that he used.
getting
Just
people
an
to go
easy
along with
read.
you and
like politics.
help your friends in
Yeah.
politics.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a great translation.
Oh, it's a great read.
Yeah.
Well, he's a poet. I mean, the translator's a
Richard
poet.
Wilbur?
Yeah.
Richard Wilbur's a
Oh,
poet.
is that right?
Yeah, he's a poet.
Okay, the way he managed to do it in
Just did a
rhyming
wonderful
couplets.
And
job.
rhyming couplets.
Yeah,
And,
that was amazing.
and
You know,
it's
from-
scanned, too, the line scanned.
From some of the past
That's-
stuff that we've been reading has been very heavy. This was a delight.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I like to read and to talk about.
Oh, and I love how the argument between the two women finally descends into, well, men don't have any attention for men because you're an old bag, and the other one says, yeah, well, you're a slut. You know, it's like, okay, we're finally down to that level. You know,
Yeah,
Like Jerry, what's his name, on TV, where it devolves into people slapping each other.
so is there any virtue that's brought out that Molière seems to be behind in here?
The only virtue is the virtue of moderation, I
Yeah,
think.
right. Right.
That's what I would say. But even that, essentially, I mean, you have to be, because even that can be, what do I want to say, can be brought into one's own stuff. I mean, I really do think that what I was talking about earlier in terms of Fellini's saying it wouldn't bother me at all if somebody cheated me and robbed me and et cetera.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, but anyway, yeah, that would be my sense. That
moderate.
moderation in most things, most of the
Yeah.
time.
And I think there's several truths that one is truths of society and how society works, which is composed of people with all their faults and also an individual with all his faults. I thought there was
Well, this has been
the
fun.
interplay. Yeah, it has been so.
I would
Yeah.
love
Good
to
choice,
see this.
Lisa.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, and now, excellent
Yeah.
choice.
Thank you.
I've never seen it. So,
Has anyone ever seen that in production?
so
I did.
thank you all.
I saw it, yeah. once.
Yeah.
Thank you out there. I hope you got some enjoyment out of it.